From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBICB Primetime Capper, and it is time for the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles Live. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you are feeling the same. And man, it's another beautiful Tuesday in LA. The sun's out, but you know it's still cold outside, so it's all good. But yeah, we just over here trying to make it happen, baby. That's all we trying to do. So pretty much what I'm looking at right now is a full schedule on the basketball slate. We got 5 hoop games tonight, 39 games in college basketball tonight as well, too. But we also had ourselves the final game of the week in the NFL for week 14, and the Pats wound up winning that game last night, dropping 23 unanswered on the Cards in Zona, winning that game 27-13. Big effort from the defense last night. Devontae Parker was taken off the field during that game as well, too, with the concussion. There was a bevy of injuries that were left and right pretty much in that game. That also saw Kyler Murray, one of the better offensive players in the NFL, but he was struggling this season, actually go out with a ACL injury. It's been confirmed this morning that it was torn. He is done for the season and probably will be done throughout the first 2 months or so of next season as well, too. So that's a tough break for a guy who just got paid, and I know that's going to be a big conversation as well, too. And where do they go from here? You know, because they do have a coach that pretty much is, I think, on his way out, to be honest with you. And I think him losing the last 12 out of 13 home games is the writings on the wall that this guy is really got to go, because they paid him a whole big sum of money to just literally go ahead and create something, but then all of it's falling apart this season. Now, they do have injuries to blame somewhat for this season as well, too. That wasn't helpful. They lost DeAndre Hopkins for the first month and a half of the year as well, too. So that was kind of key. JJ Watt hasn't had a JJ Watt type season. And I think losing Chandler Jones, who was such a significant piece to this team, has also hindered them in a sense as well, too, because he was a real big time sack master. That showed up a few weeks back when the Raiders played against the Chargers. They definitely were missing that. JJ Watt, 6.5 sacks on the season. And he has, you know, he didn't play much last season either. He got hurt about 7 games in, and his Arizona tenure has not been what people assumed it was going to be. He's had 7.5 sacks in his time there, and the last time JJ Watt had double-digit sacks was back in 2018. So you can see a guy who's getting a little bit too old at this point right now. So, you know, you got a lot of things not working in their favor. They got a lot of old players on this team, and they do have to go ahead and see exactly where they're going to go after this. But the Patriots had a game last night. They got to the quarterback 6 times last night, and that was incredible in itself. And then that made up for the 8 penalties that they had for 80 yards. But the Cards did themselves no favors either. They had 8 penalties with 48 yards given up, but they did very well in every offensive category. I'm talking about the Cardinals, but win the game. That's what was the craziest part about this. They even had the ball 7 minutes longer than the Patriots, but that turnover that they had in the late second half was huge with that return on the fumble from DeAndre Hopkins, who He looked very, very out of his element there in the third quarter. Wound up being a Raekwon McMillan touchdown. So that was a big deal last night, and they had themselves a monster win moving forward. And right now, the Pats find themselves in good position. They are actually at the 7th seed now because those 2 wins over the Jets is now very significant towards a playoff push for this team. But New England is in a 3-way tie with the Chargers and the Jets as well. So there is no smooth selling for the New England moving forward. They really are in a situation where they can't really afford to lose any games at this point. But they all have 5 wins against the conference. But the Patriots have the best record against the conference at 5-3 out the 3 that are chasing this spot. So all in all, you look at this one and you say to yourself, how's it going to end? It will probably end up with 3 NFC East teams getting to the playoffs, but I really do see the Chargers figuring out a way to get themselves into this party as well too. Because when you look at their end schedule, it's Tennessee Sunday. Then their last 3 games are very winnable for them, even though 2 out of 3 of those games are on the road. Indianapolis on the road, Denver on the road, but then you squeeze the Rams into the all SoFi game, Battle with SoFi game on that Sunday. And it's funny because once again, you find the Chargers on Sunday Night Football once again, but most likely that game will probably get flexed out for a much more important game. But it is, I think, the final game of the season for NBC as well too, with the Sunday Night Football, or I think they may end the week later, but I know that it's a to be determined situation as well too. So that's what we're looking at. But all in all, though, great win for the Pats last night, and they are 7-6 now, and they are in prime position for the playoffs. If it was to start today, the Pats would be in. So Belichick is looking like the evil genius that we all know he is, and good work for them. So we move forward, and let's jump into our next topic in hand, and that's going to be Purdue. Purdue right now is the number 1 team in the nation, and it's college basketball. But how long will that last? We all know what they did to Duke. They absolutely crushed Duke this year in the Phil Knight. I think it was the Phil Knight legacy, and they absolutely took Duke apart. And they have played some really good basketball because they've really took everybody to the woodshed this year, and it's very understandable why they feel like this about Purdue. The team is 10-0. They're 2-0 in conference play already, and when you look at their wins this year, they have a big win over Gonzaga, who they beat by 18, and then they beat Duke by 19. Also went ahead and got a good win over a struggling Florida State team. We're beating them 79-69. They also beat up on Minnesota 89-70, but they did have a tough time against Nebraska on Saturday, but wound up winning that game 65-62. Also had beat Marquette and West Virginia as well. So that weekend up in Portland was huge for this team moving forward. And by them winning all those games by double digits, it was really a no-brainer that this team was going to be the number 1 team in the nation, because when you look at their wins right now, they have the best wins on the season out of anybody in the top 10 other than UConn. So, and the way that they're going about their business right now, they've only had 2 games in single digits this year as well, that being the Marquette game and the Nebraska game recently. And when you look at their next 3 games coming up before they get to Rutgers, these are all very winnable games. They have Davidson on Saturday, then they play New Orleans next Wednesday. Then on the 29th, they play Florida A&M. And then January 2nd, they get into full conference mode, and they open up the week against Rutgers. Then they have Ohio State Thursday night, and then they have Penn State that Sunday. So that's their first 3 conference games, and that's probably going to be when you look at it, it might be the Ohio State game where you have to circle the upset coming, because the game will be in Columbus for that one as well too. And Rutgers does pose a threat, but Rutgers is coming into Lafayette, for West Lafayette, to play them. So we'll see how it goes. But this Purdue team is playing on a different level right now, and it's fun for their fans as well as Zach Edey, who's pictured right here, is averaging 22 points a game in 31 minutes, almost 32 a night. Then Lawyer's getting 13.1, and they're the only guys averaging double digits. After that, it's kind of a fall off. You got Smith getting 9.3, Newman 7.7, and First is getting 7 points a game. Then after that, it's just guys just doing a good job of being role players on this team. So they're not asking for much, but they're just getting it done. That's all it is at the end of the day. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But Purdue right now is the best team in the nation, and there is no denying that at this moment either. And they are riding pretty high. They haven't looked this good since Big Dog Robinson was there. So we'll see how it goes and see how it shakes out. But Purdue is the number one team in the land. But how long will it last? All right, so we move forward to talk some boxing, and let's go ahead and talk about Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford is the man. Bud Crawford has another impressive knockout to retain the WBO Welterweight crown. A big time win over David Avazian, and he looked really good in the fight. And I know a lot of people had their hangups. Everybody was hoping for failure in this situation, which is really bad when it comes to you saying you're a boxing fan. You don't want fights to fail. You don't want events to fail. Because at the end of the day, if the public doesn't show interest in these fights, why would they keep putting boxing on TV? Why would they keep trying to do pay-per-views, all that stuff? I think fans have a real problem with this idea that sports is free. I'm going to tell you like this. All sports cost money to play. It's that simple, unless you at a rec park or something of that nature, and you guys throw out a basketball and throw out a soccer ball or something. Yeah, that's free. But when you're dealing with professional sports, college sports, all that stuff, if you have a stream at home, you have to pay for that stream. So you guys complaining about pay-per-views and having to pay for this, that, and the third, and wanting free fights. Showtime is not a free fight. Showtime, you have to pay a monthly bill on your cable, or you have to pay the monthly Showtime stream bill. So why would you say that's a free fight? That's not a free fight. That's just you spending $50 less than you do on a pay-per-view. Okay, another example. When you're watching a fight on ESPN, you pay for that streaming service. You pay for that cable. So at the end of the day, that's not a free fight. So none of this stuff is free. The last time we had free fights was about 5-6 years ago when they were putting fights on NBC. And then we did have Fox jump into the fray about 3 years ago when they were showing fights on Fox and FS1 as well too, mostly FS1, but they had big names on Fox fighting on those cards as well too. So, and those were big numbers. Yes, those were. So once again, you got to pay your electricity bill to have your TV on. So boxing is never free. Just know that part. And I feel like a lot of people felt like Bud owed them something. No, really, we owe Bud our attention because right now he's 36 years old and he's probably has about 5 more fights that that he really will look really great in. You know what I mean? And I know that the time is ticking, and this is why he has to make sure that he has everything in place the right way because he's about to leave the game. So he gets $10 million for this last fight against David Avazian, and he pretty much was sold out the house in Omaha as usual, but this time around they added about 2,500 extra seats that were all filled up as well too. Now the pay-per-view has some fickle numbers. They already came out and tried to say that it was only 15,000. Those numbers are really not calculated until about a week or so after the fight. To be in all honesty, they're not going to be able to calculate those numbers immediately. It's going to take them a few days to get the overall look of the fight, and they will count the YouTube views as well too, because that's a somewhat of a residual effect for Black Prime as well. If they because they did get about 20,000 new subscribers the moment that Crawford said that he's fighting on Black Prime. So a lot of people just have a lot of hate in their heart, and it was shown a lot on social media this weekend when it came down to talking about Bud Crawford. And I felt like that wasn't fair to Bud, man. That's not fair at all. So pretty much he had a great performance once again this weekend. He looked great doing it. And a lot of people who just want to just keep rushing everything. They want to get this Spence and Crawford fight going. But the thing is, though, the money doesn't make sense right now, and Spence won't admit it. But Bud just pretty much gave everybody the grease on what was going on in reality. And it's not like they're not going to have the fight. The fight just wasn't a good 2022 fight. This is a really bad year for a lot of things economically in this country. So you guys just have to understand that situation that we're dealing with as well too. I would say this fight will go down no later than, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna keep it real honest with you guys. I think Bud and Spence get it on in Dallas, and that will happen about late March, mid-April, in my opinion. Okay, and I think that they did not stop negotiating what the fight was going to be. They just stopped talking about the date that they had selected in October or November or whatever time it was, which was a good, strong date because it was a week before Thanksgiving. I thought that would work, but at the end of the day, knowing who's going to be the broadcaster for it, which will be Fox, because Fox is going to want to be behind this, then, pretty much this fight will go down when it's perfect for the sweeps. And I think it's perfect for the sweeps when you get down to the last weekend of the tournament, possibly, or when you get to the midpoint of the April sweeps and all that good stuff. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But Bud Spence will be happening in 2023. I can guarantee that. Okay. You heard it here first. And I think that a lot of people just got to back off of trying to be the matchmaker, trying to be the person, because you guys aren't the ones putting the money behind anything on this fight. What you want is to have a cheap ass pay-per-view price for yourself. That's all. That's all you're bringing to the table. Is that's it. Okay, you guys are not promoters. You guys are not matchmakers. Just be fans and enjoy what you see when you see it, because these guys aren't going to be with us much longer when it comes to this era of boxing. And I think that we have some really great boxers in this group that get way too disrespected by very, very fickle fans. All right. So that's my 2 cents. And we move forward from there. Let's just go ahead and jump into the next next boxer that we have on the subject hand, and that's going to be Teofimo Lopez. Teo has an off night, still wins a split decision against Martin, and I think that Martin was a little bit was listening to the announcers a little bit too much. The announcers just always had to put into a little bit of drama, but Teo did not really have that many issues winning this fight. What was wrong with the fight was very ugly, because Sandor Martin, and this is coming from a guy who loves the sweet science. This is a guy I'm a guy who loves hit and don't get hit mentality. But when you're literally just running around the ring and not engaging, then you're not really sitting there sticking and moving. What you're doing is just you're moving and you're trying to survive. I think that he couldn't handle Teofimo's power. I'm going to be dead honest with you guys. That's why he didn't truly want to engage. His excuse was that his nose is broke and he didn't want to affect his nose more within the fight. But even though he still went about things, and Teo did open him up really nicely with a good right hook as well too. I know that they said it was headbutts, but one of the punches that landed for Teo did open his nose up and have him leaking all over the place. And they did clean it up by, say, round 6 or 7 or so, but he was running it off as well too. But I know a lot of people have their gripes against Teofimo Lopez because he does talk. He does think highly of himself. And you know what? You're supposed to be like that in boxing. Why would anybody want to root for a guy who just comes to the ring and hopes he wins the fight? Now, Teo did have a moment after the fight where he kind of questioned himself. Did he still have it? I think that Teo was literally knowing that it was going to be a bad reaction from the Twitters and the Facebooks and all these boxing pages and all these boxing websites and all that stuff, because they don't really have a big gripe against Teo. They have a issue with his father, and they should never have an issue with a father-son relationship, okay? And I say this because I just loved my dad a lot. and he's not with us anymore. So you're never going to question somebody about their loyalty to their parent, and especially in this situation when it's there with their father. Now, T.O. does probably need to look at his options moving forward, but his father will always be a part of the decision making of his career as well too. He built him. So you guys need to just kind of back up a little bit when you guys want to just keep on talking about him and his dad's relationship and how they go about their business. They've went about their business the way that you're supposed to go about their business. By his 14th fight, he was fighting for a world title. Who can say that? And then he steps into his next fight and he's fighting for a undisputed title. Okay? Undisputed title, and winds up winning against the guy that they call the best pound for pound in the world for 3 years. All right? So you guys and all your little hate and all your little comments and everything like that, you sound real stupid because this guy's already accomplished a whole lifetime of a career before he's even got to his 20th victory in boxing. If T.O. was to wrap it up now and say, I'm done with this, he would at least go in 3 or 4 different Hall of Fames just because what he did at such a young age. I know it sounds crazy right now, but he was the undisputed champion. He had every single belt, including the supposed franchise belt of the WBC, and did challenge Devin Haney to fight him. And Devin Haney didn't want any parts of it at that point in time when he was still seen as the interim champion. But he was able to give George Kambosos a little bit of advice and, you know, kind of get into what T.O.'s situation was, which was kind of girly of him. And then it wound up being a situation where Kambosos gets himself a nice little split decision victory, but everybody acted like it was some dominant win. I've seen that fight several times. It could have went either way. If the judges want to go ahead and really just go. If the judges said T.O. won the fight, I'm going to be dead honest with you. Y'all wouldn't have had an issue with it because he knocked him down and he just had a big gash over his eye at the end of the day. Like his father told me over at Resort to World after the first fight there, pretty much told me that, you know what, when it comes down to it, that, you know, he should have killed my son, and he did not do that. So pretty much it was an injury that held T.O. up from actually winning that fight. So, you know, or winning in convincing fashion, or just literally just knocking the guy out. As you guys can see, George Kambosos is no elite fighter. He got absolutely cooked by Devin twice. You know what I mean? So it is what it is at the end of the day. Teofimo will bounce back from this. He was already back in the gym well after the next day after the fight. So like he said, the haters gonna hate. It doesn't matter. If he'd have knocked the guy out in 2 rounds, they would have said he was a bum. It was a lose-lose situation for T.O. I think that T.O. is on his way to having a big title fight as well, too, coming up very soon. But we'll have to see, though. You know what I mean? Because he is in position to fight for the WBO crown at 140. So it is what it is at the end of the day. T.O. gets himself a win, but it wasn't the way that people wanted him to win. So it is what it is at the end of the day. But if you thought Xander Martin won that fight, you can feel any way you want to, but he didn't win that fight. Let's just keep it real. Yeah, he knocked down T.O., but it was questionable. It could have been a slip. It could have been a lot of things because he did push his head down. It wasn't a clean punch. So let's just go ahead and move on down the road because the boy won the fight. And it is what it is. The result's not going to change. So y'all can say what you want, but it doesn't matter about your imaginary records and everything that you try to put on guys. If they won the fight, they won the fight. It's that simple. And we all move on to the next one. And there it is. There it is. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. And when I get back, it's time to get into the state of the Lakers. And then I'm going to break down our 4 NBA games that we have tonight, even though we got 5, but I got 4 to talk about to you guys. So stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles, live with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper.
The Viget app, where social media meets sports betting. Get the latest line movements in all major sports. Track your daily bets, daily contests, the NFL over-under contest that pays out $10K in cash prizes. This is a cutting-edge app that helps betting be easy. Sign up with the reference code POPDBIC and you will be able to watch my daily show, The PrimeTime Angles, as a resource to building that bankroll. Viget is available in your Apple or Google Store on your iOS or Android. The social sports betting app, Viget.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
All right, we're back with the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles, live with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper. Let's go ahead and jump into the state of the Lakers. And tonight, the Lakers have the rivals in town. The Celtics come in for their LA visit because they did play the Clippers last night. They wound up losing that game by 20 points to be exact, 113-93 last night. People should have felt that one coming because, you know, it's a Monday night at crypto. So, you know, sometimes it just goes in the home team's favor, but they visit with the best record in the league. Can the Lakers show slow down their arch rivals? We have to see about that because the Lakers coming into this game, they had a 6-game road trip. They wound up going 3-3. They are probably in the best position they've been in all season when it comes to confidence, in my opinion. But the Lakers just have a tendency of winning, say, 2 in a row, then losing 3 in a row. They were able to stop the bleeding, though, after a 3-game losing streak. But they did get beat by really good teams in the process. Cleveland's a top team in the East. Toronto is hovering around that 6-7 hole. And Philadelphia is seen as another top team in the East as well, too. So those losses were kind of like, you kind of felt those ones coming, but they were in the game against the Sixers. They were able to pull all the way back. The Lakers were down like 12 points with like 2.5 minutes left to go in the game. They wound up tying the game, forcing the game to go into overtime, and wound up losing the game by 11 at the end stretch. Then, you know, they had a nice conversation on the court. LeBron, Wes, and AD, and these guys seem to say that enough is enough. We're getting too close, and we need to start winning these games. So what did the Lakers do Sunday night? They went absolutely off. LeBron James had 35, 5, and 5. AD had 34, 15, and 7. Then you had Lonnie Walker get his 18 points, and he was able to shoot 4 or 6 from the three-point line as well, too. Also, Austin Reeves had himself a hell of a game. He went 3 for 5. He only had 9 points, but those three-pointers were actually very key. And then Westbrook had himself a good game as well, too. He had 11 points with 4 rebounds and 9 assists. That was huge for the Lakers. And then Dennis Schroeder was very instrumental with 5 points and 5 assists as well, too. And I guess I'll give Pat Bev a little credit here. He did have 5 rebounds in that game, and he also had 3 assists, but he almost, but he did what he had to do. Probably one of his better games of the season, but they were only playing Detroit. And it seems like that Troy Brown, who was a guy who was starting a few weeks ago, he got a little bit of time, and he only had 2 points. Tommy Bryant only played 12 minutes. So, hopefully those guys off the bench who've been contributing a lot can get some more time, because it seems like the Lakers are only rolling 7 deep, and that's kind of a problem. That's why the Lakers can't stay consistent on the winning end. So they walk into this Boston game going against a Boston team that's lost 2 in a row. And Boston has rarely lost 2 in a row this season. They're 21-7 on the year, 3-3 in the month of December, though, right now, after having such a good November. They only lost twice in November. They've already lost more games than they lost in the last 2 months. They lost only 2 in October. They lost 2 in November, and they've lost 3 this month. So, all right, I think they're cooling down just a little bit, y'all. You know what I mean? Not a lot, just a little bit. But this was a long road trip. It was a 6-gamer. Started off in Brooklyn and finishes against the Lakers. So when they get done with this, they'll have 7 games in a row to end the month in Boston. So this team is looking forward to getting to 2 days off after this, because they don't play again until Friday. And so pretty much this one shapes up to be a really, really fun game tonight. You have a Boston team coming in here, number 1 in scoring, number 1 in free throw percentage, number 2 in three-point percentage, number 1 in three-point shots made. And also when it comes to assisted turnover ratio, they're number 2 in that category. They're third when it comes to turnovers. So Boston is top 10 in all the right spots. Also fourth in field goal percentage. So this team is tough. And then you have the duo of Tatum Brown literally getting 55 points a game. That's literally accounting for 60% of the offense, 60 to 70% of the offense. And these guys are playing probably their best basketball as a duo they've ever played, because they're just very confident in their abilities right now. And they do have 6 guys that are averaging double figures right now as well too. And Al Horford has still been an impactful player, even though he hasn't played as many games as the rest of the crew. But he's doing he's doing very good at his age and playing 31 minutes a night. And White is always doing what he does, being a great role player, and Grant Williams is also doing the most. So they're running about 8 deep, but this might be the best 8-man rotation in the league. And Blake Griffin is figuring out ways to get on the court and do a little couple things as well too. He's only averaging 6.1, but he's only played in 12 games. But you know, Blake will have some nights where when he has to fill in, he'll be huge for this team. So you like where the Celtics are going. You're hoping that the Celtics can pretty much get themselves, keep afloat, because the league is always in a good place when Boston's one of the better teams. But they are having their way in the Atlantic Division right now. They're already up 4.5 games, and they're the only team right now in the NBA, literally, that is sitting at 20 wins right now. So this team has a lot to go ahead and decipher, because they are pretty much the only team with 20 wins or better in the league right now. So we'll see how it goes. But they've played 28 games. A lot of teams haven't played as many games as the Celtics either, but it doesn't really matter. The Celtics are doing their job, and 10-5 record on the road as well too. So a lot of things are working in the right direction for the Celtics at this point. So with that, we move forward to our next topic in hand, and that's going to be NBA Tuesday night. And we have ourselves 5 games, but I'm going to talk about the 4 games because I just got done talking about the Lakers and the Celtics. So pretty much with our first game tonight, we have ourselves the Kings and the 76ers. They are meeting for the second time this season as well too. The Kings actually got their first win in the season against the no, they haven't played each other yet. I thought that they came to Sacramento already this year, but they didn't. That was another situation. So you have a Philadelphia team that's 2-2 in the month of December. Also, you have this Philly team that's sitting here with pretty much one of the better records in the Eastern Conference as well, but they're still chasing Boston as well too. They're 14-12 at this point. If the playoffs were to start today, this team would be in the playoffs, but they wouldn't be a high seed right now. Philadelphia would be the 5th seed right now, but that still ensures them of making the playoffs. You know what I mean? So when you look at teams, it's so funny that you see teams that are 7 through 10, and then some of these teams might be 10 games behind the team with the 7 wins, but they with 7 seed, but they still got an opportunity. I think the NBA might need to fix this because it's not a good. I know they want to have more action, but I don't like it. So pretty much, you look at the numbers here. The numbers that I have here on the Kings coming into the game, they are 3-2 in the month of December. Last game, they did lose to the Knicks. Also, they're 6-7 straight up on the road. They're 5-10 straight up as an underdog, and then straight up versus the Eastern Conference, they're 9-5. Now against the spread, they're 16-9, second best record in the league when it comes to covering spread as well, too. Just a heads up for you guys. And then when it comes down to the spread on the road, they're 8-5. The spread as an underdog, they're 9-6, and the spread versus the East, they're 8-6 in that category. Now, when it comes down to the over/under, they went under in 13 out of their 25 games this year. Now, when it comes to road games, they've had 13. They've went under 9 of them. And versus the Eastern Conference, they played in 14. They played in 14 times, and they split each time 7-7 on each side. Now, the 76ers come into this game 2-2 in the month of December, and they won their last 2 games in a row, and they haven't played since Friday, so I know that works out pretty well for them as well too. So they were able to bounce back because they dropped the first 2 games of the month. They're 9-5 straight up at home. They're also 9-6 straight up as a favorite, and then they're 3-4 straight up versus the West. Against the spread, they're 14-11-1. And then when it comes down to the being a favorite, they are 8-6-1 against the spread. At home, they're 9-4-1 against the spread. So you look at the over and under, but hold up, they're 4-3 against the spread when it comes to the Western Conference. So, you look at those stats, they're not playing that great against the West, but they are covering against the West. Now, over and under, they had 26 games. They went over in 14 of them at home. They've had 14 games. They are even at 7. So it's a hit or miss when it comes to the over and under in that spot. But against the West, they've had 7 games. They've went over in 4 of them. Now, this one right here, what I see is a game where the 76ers will probably do a very great, have a very great, great impact tonight. Yeah, even though you have a Kings team that's 3-2 for this month, they lost their last 2 out of 3. This is a part of a 6-game road trip as well, and it doesn't really get easier after this. They have to go to Toronto tomorrow night, and then they have to play Detroit Friday night. So they're kind of on the same schedule the Lakers were last week, but kind of in reverse. But they do wind up having a Friday game against Detroit, and then they'll be back home on Monday to finish up the month with 6 straight home games. So they're looking to finish this road trip off in a winning fashion, in a sense. And they're 2-2 right now on the road for this month because they did play the Clippers earlier. So, they're just trying to stay afloat, trying to stay in the mix because they're looking at possible playoff here at the end of the year, but they got to stay consistent, and they know that, and they know that they've had their issues. But right now, if the playoffs were to start today, they're the 5th seed. So we'll see how it goes. But all in all, though, I do like Philly in this game with the 4.5 in this spot. It's a 228.5 spread over under. So we'll see how it goes, see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. Let's go ahead and get to what possibly is the game of the night, because we know it's going to be a TNT game, national game tonight, and I know a lot of people will be very into this game because there's a lot of action going on. You got Giannis going against Steph and crew tonight, so it's going to have a lot of hype to it. Now, you do have a Warriors team that has won 3 out of 5 to start the month, and they lost 2 in a row, but they were able to get back into the mix by beating Boston on Saturday at home. But now they're back on the road, and they're looking to fix their road woes as well too. This team has 6 games on the road before they have 4 games to finish up the month. Now I'm looking at the way that these notes, and the once again, I know I've been very hard on the Warriors, but I'm going to stay on this. Most of their losses have occurred on the road. They're 2-11 on the road, and then they're 1-6 as an underdog straight up this year. It doesn't matter where they're at as an underdog, they're 1-6. Now, when it comes to the spread and straight up versus the East, same record, 5-5. And then when it comes to the spread in general, they're 13-14. And then when it comes down to the spread on the road, they're 3-10. And then when it comes down to the spread as an underdog, they're 3-4. Now, with the over under, they've had 27 games. They went over in 14 of them. Now, when it comes down to being on the road, they've had 13 games. They went over in 8 of them. And when it comes down to playing the West, they've done this 10 times. They've went under 7 of those 10 times. So, 7 of those against the East. I'm so sorry. Not against the West, against the East. And they're 5-5 versus the East as well, too, this year. So sorry about that. All right. Because I'm about to say, they didn't play 10 games against the West. They play way more than that. And then you have a Bucks team that's 4-2 right now. In the month of December, they did lose, though, after a 4-game winning streak to Houston on Saturday night, losing that game 97-92. Now, when you look at the straight up at home factor, they're 12-3. And straight up as a favorite, they're 18-6. And versus the West, they're 8-3, all straight up. Now, when it comes to the spread in their 26 games, they're 14-10-2. Now, at home, they've played 15. They're 10-5 against the spread. And as a favorite, they've played 23 games as a favorite. They're 13-9-2. Now, against the West, as a favorite, they're 6-4-1. So when it comes down to the over-under, they've went under in 14 of those 26 games. And then when it comes down to being a home team with the over and under, they've went over in 10 out of 15 games. And then against the West, they've went over in 6 out of 11 games. So this is a really, really fun game that you can pick either way. But I'm going to take the Warriors as my dog bet of the day today in the NBA with the plus 150. It looks a little crazy now, but I think that this is a good step-up game for the Warriors. And I think with the way that the Lakers came in there and beat them a few weeks back when nobody saw it coming, I think that the Warriors easily can do the same thing. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it checks out. But I do like the way that this game is setting up, and I think the Warriors are going to go ahead and get us some dog money tonight. Hopefully they do, because, me and the Warriors, it just is always a head. It's always a, man, I hope these guys show up for me tonight situation. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But Warriors Bucks tonight on ESPN. All right, we move forward. Let's go ahead and talk about the Suns and the Rockets. Suns and Rockets meeting up for the second time this month. And the first time they met up, the Suns actually lost that game to the Rockets by 1 point. And I'm going to keep it real with you guys. The Suns are having an absolutely awful month this month as well, too. They're 1-5 on the month. And they just have not been the same. Chris Paul came back a few games ago, and they just have not been a good team since he came back. And the craziest thing about it is this team has lost by double digits 3 times out of those 5 losses this month as well, too. The only win they had was against San Antonio. They wound up beating San Antonio by 48 points. So that was huge. But after that, they just been ass, to be honest with you. They gave up 95 points that day. After that, they've been giving up about 123, 124 points a game. You cannot survive. You cannot call yourself a top team in this league, and guys are scoring at you at will. And each loss, Houston's first loss, 122 was scored on Phoenix. Then 130 was scored on them by Dallas. Then 125 by Boston. Then New Orleans dropped 128 and 129 on them in consecutive games. So, they have to fix this, and they have to fix it quickly. As I said before, they've lost 5 out of 6 to start the month off, including the last 4. And then they're 4-8 straight up on the road. Also 14-8 straight up as a favorite, 13-7 straight up versus the West. And then against the spread, they're 14-13 on the road. They're 5-7 against the spread, and against the spread as a favorite, they're even at 11-11. And against the spread versus the West, they're 11-9. Now, when it comes down to the over-under, they've had 27 games. They've went under in 13, and they've went over in 13, and they pushed in 1. Now, when it comes down to the over-under on the road, they've went over in 7 of those 12 games. And now when it comes down to playing the West, they've went over in 11 of those 20 games. So they have a tendency to go over a lot in these games. But I think tonight, though, this one right here with the Rockets should fare real well. I think that this is one where they really are looking for the bounce back. Now, the Rockets are actually having a winning month right now. They're 3-2 in December. They won their last game against the Bucks 97-92. They're 5-5 straight up at home. That's a good stat. They're 8-17 though as the underdog straight up. Now against the West, they're 4-14 straight up. And against the spread, they're 13-12-1. Now against the spread at home, much better, 6-3-1. And against the spread as an underdog, 13-11-1. So this team does figure out ways to go ahead and get a cover. They may not win, but they do find out ways to cover. And, you know, this team has only won 8 games this year to Phoenix's 16. So, you know, that's pretty crazy when you can trust this team a little bit more on the spread. Now, when it comes down to the over-under, 26 games, 13-13 on each side. So, you know, they bust even in that. And when it comes down to the over-under at home, once again, 5-5. So they're even in that spot as well, too. And when it comes down to the over and under versus the Western Conference, they've had 18 games. They've went under in 10 of them. So they have that stat working for them right now. And, you know, there's a lot of things that are working out in their favor, to be honest with you. So there's just some things that just, you know, you just say to yourself, you hope for the best for this Rockets team, but they are playing in a situation where they are trying to get, you know, the next best big thing. You know what I mean? So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how it shapes up, but that's what we have here for that point for that and that for that game tonight. All right, so we move forward and let's go ahead and jump into the Pels and the Jazz tonight. This one is going to be a good one between the Pelicans, who have the best record in the West at 18-8. The Jazz 15-4. They did start the season off, I think, 6-2. That means that this team is 9-12 since that point. So they're not playing the same standard of ball that they did to start the year. Pelicans are actually 5-0 in the month of December, and they've won their last 7 in a row. Now on the road, they're 6-5 straight up. And as a favorite, they're 13-4 straight up. And against the West, they're 12-5 straight up. Now, against the spread, they're 15-11. And on the road, they're 6-5 against the spread. Now, as a favorite and against the West, same record, 10-7. And then in their 26 games, they went over 14 times. And then when it comes down to being a road team with the over and under, they've went over in 8 out of those 11 games. And then when it comes down to playing the West in over and unders, they've went ahead and went under 9 out of 17 of those games. So this team, the Pelicans, is looking really good coming into this one. And they've played the Jazz a few times this year, and they've been some really good games against the Jazz as well, too. So tonight it's no different, because that's why you see the spread at +1.5 with the Jazz as a slight home dog tonight. So that is, you know, something that you do have to factor in a little bit, that this team is always up to it at home as well. And I'm looking at the season. I'm trying to find the season. Did they played each other this season? I thought they had already played each other, but no, this is their first meeting of the year. So they're going to see each other twice as well, too. They play tonight and they play Thursday as well. So that should be good. But the Jazz coming to this game 2-3 in the month of December. They've lost their last 3 out of 4, including the last 2 games in a row. They're 9-5 straight up at home. They're 10-8 straight up as an underdog, 13-9 straight up versus the West. And then they're 16-13 against the spread, 7-7 against the spread at home, 13-5 against the spread as the underdog. And then they're 14-8 against the spread versus the West. Now they've played 29 games and they've went over in 15 of them. Now, when it comes down to home games, they've had 14. They've went over or under 7 times. So they're even in that regard. And same thing happens when in their 22 games against the Western Conference, they are 11-11. So they have went under 11 times and have went over 11 times. So that's where you have it, and that's where we're going when we go ahead and talk about this game. So there's a lot of good things going on here. So pretty much this game tonight does call for me to really go ahead and bank in on the over-under situation. And I like the under here. I'll be honest with you. I like the under in the spot. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But that's going to be our games for tonight. And when I get back, we're going to go ahead and jump into talking tickets. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles Live.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right. Let's go ahead and jump into our final segment, and that's going to be your favorite segment, Talkin Tickets. So let's go ahead and talk some tickets. And let's get into CBB. It's 47-1 today. We got a battle for interstate battle. You got the UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, going against the Loyola Maryland squad. So today we'll go ahead and take UMBC, the only 16 seed to ever win in the NCAA tournament. We'll go ahead and we'll take them with the 4.5 today. You got Marshall in a game against UNC Greensboro, and I think that Marshall prevails in the spot with the -140. I like what I see here. You have LSU going against North Carolina Central today, so I do like them with the 13.5 at home. Princeton's playing against Iona at Iona, but I like Princeton, Jersey boys, +7. Let's go ahead and get it, Ivy League. And then we got Rhode Island in a slim spot. They're going against UMass Lowell tonight, not UMass, not the UMass Minutemen, but the other UMass squad. So I do like Rhode Island tonight with the +110 in that mini rivalry game. And then the game of the night between Bama and Memphis. This one is a really good betting game, in my opinion. You can go either way with Memphis tonight. I think Memphis does go ahead and get the monster upset tonight because Alabama's coming off of a real hard-fought game, and it was only Saturday, and that was against Houston. If Memphis is able to take the game to them right away, they can go ahead and get the upset tonight. I really do feel that, but they will keep this game close. I love the +7.5 here. All right, let's go ahead and finish up with the NBA Super High Five. As I said before, I like the 76ers in their game tonight against the Kings. I'm going to take them with the 4.5. Then I got the Warriors here as my dog bet of the day. I love them with the +150. Let's see if we can go ahead and get this money with them. And then we have the over 224 with the Suns and the Rockets. I like the way that this one is shaping up. And as I told you guys before, the Suns are absolutely getting crushed when it comes to the way that they're playing defense over these last five out of 6 games. They only had one game this month where they had under 120 points allowed. So, this team got to step it up big time at this point. Then you have the Pels and the Jazz with the under 232.5. I know I'm kind of going the other way. This is going to be a heavy over bet, but I feel like we're going to get the under in this spot. And then we end with the Lakers with the +3.5 to just have a close game with the old rival Celtics. So it should be a lot of fun. I do expect big things coming from each side tonight. And 33-1, very very, very healthy ticket for a 5-teamer, in my opinion. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out, as I always like to say. So I'm ready for tonight. I hope you are too. I know the show is coming on a little late, but we had the NFL show as well today too. And tomorrow we'll be back at our regular time, either 12 or 1 o'clock for the PrimeTime Angles. So thank you guys very much for tuning in, and we'll be back to you tomorrow. So as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving, and this is the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTime Angles Live, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Kappa. And I'll be right back at you tomorrow, and you guys have a blessed day, and I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.